Hello, listeners. Welcome to Yuva Vani. Today, we have with us in the studio Miss V M Deepa, an eminent award winning TV journalist from Kerala. She is also a producer and director of environment documentary films in Malayalam and English. Deepa has worked with major TV journalists like Asianet News TV, Amrita TV, and Sabha TV of Kerala Legislative Assembly. Now she is working with an online news channel called The Idiom. Ma'am Deepa has also produced some films. She has got Kerala State Awards for Excellence in TV Journalism, like Award for the Producers of Best Current Affairs Program 2002, Award for the Best Anchor 2012, Award for the Producers of Best Current Affairs Program 2014, and National Award in 2015 for the Producers of Best Current Affairs Documentary on Environment. Ma'am Deepa is on a visit to Arunachal at the invitation of Lohit Youth Library Network. So, on behalf of libraries and all the listeners of AIR Teju, a hearty welcome, Ma'am Deepa, to AIR Teju.
Thank you.
Ma'am, please tell us, how did you develop an interest in TV journalism? What attracted you to take TV journalism?
I am from a remote village in North Kerala. So my father was active in trade union work and politics and social work also. In my college days, I was also involved in some student politics. I was also an avid reader. So after my graduation, I wanted to do something that was connected to the society. I just did not want to have a job and limit myself to that. I wanted to have to do something which is connected with the society. And I decided that I will do journalism. Also, I made this decision also because at that period, women's equality movements were gaining momentum in Kerala. So I was inspired by that too, to choose a field where there is very little space for women to enter such a field. So both these helped me to make my choice, and that was how I joined journalism.
This is so enchanting to hear stories from remote pockets of Kerala and inspiring lady like you. You have been covering current affairs on TV for a long time. You have also won awards in reporting. Could you share some interesting experiences?
There are so many experiences because I have done all India programs on agriculture and environment for since 2004. So it has been a long time. But if I look at it in its totality, I can say that doing agriculture travelogues, traveling all over India, that is an experience that I cherish the most. Because all those travels were through rural India, which we do not get to see much actually. So that journey was entirely different from our usual these sightseeing trips that we make. My topic was agriculture, environment, and each Indian village taught me something. I always think that it was a unique privilege that I got to do this work, talking to rural people, seeing the models, sustainable development models. My one program was Good Earth, which was about sustainable development models. So I got to meet the pioneers of sustainable development in India. So that was one experience. I can tell you some examples. For example, there was one doctor couple who graduated from Kerala, and they went to the remotest part of Tamil Nadu, where there was only high school. To join a college, a student had to travel 60 kilometers. All were tribal people. They were not educated. From there, they chose girls who were educated up to 8th standard, and they taught them nursing. So these two doctors, they trained these nurses and started an all tribal, a tribal hospital with all the employees except doctors. All the staff, the hospital was run by tribal people. And also the hospital was made of mud. It was a multi-speciality hospital and it was made of mud. So that kind of community work combined with dedication, combined with education, it's kind of a great exchange happening between educated class and the local community. So such things seeing such models were very inspiring.
Indeed, the beauty of rural pockets of India would we cannot compare with any beauty of other parts of beautiful sightseeing. So rural parts of India is always special place people like
Yeah.
us who come from rural pockets of India. So moving forward, what made you take up environment as a special area of interest now?
I was actually a mainstream television reporter initially. That was a time when in Kerala there was stiff competition. New TV channels were mushrooming, and some of us felt that the quality of journalism was deteriorating because as reporters we had to rush from one point to one story to another to be the first to give the news to the people. So in that run, we always had to compromise quality. So I decided at a point, I decided enough is enough and I took a break from my career. Then I started thinking about it, and that was when I got an offer to join a program which was an all India agriculture program. Because I had no that much background in agriculture, but I somehow I sensed that India is an agriculture country. 60-70% of our population are farmers and farm workers. So that is where the heart of India is. So if you want to know India, you have to see that, you have to have an first-hand experience of what these people, what kind of life these people live. So that was I accepted that offer, and it was almost by chance. But then I started to learn more about the farmer issue, the debate of organic versus inorganic. All these things were there. It was a very complex situation, and more and more I learned, I began to understand that this is where we need to work.
Indeed, this is very interesting to hear. The heart of India is farmers. So moving forward, what is the importance of climate change, environmental issues on today's TV channel?
Climate change is a reality that we cannot deny anymore. We cannot ignore it. We have already seen what is happening around us in India. All these floods, heat waves in Pakistan, in China, in Canada, the wildfires. So it has become extreme climate events are becoming a reality for us. And what is very strange is that this week you have flood, and then after 2 weeks you have a heat spell. So that kind of combination of two extreme climate events, opposite extreme climate events, it's a reality. So the media cannot ignore environmental issues or climate change, but what I feel is the media is still not making the effort to work in this area. There are a lot of reasons for that, but sooner or later media will have to take up these issues, because they are becoming our everyday reality.
Okay. Do you think these issues are properly covered by national media? Does it get properly highlighted?
Yeah, national media is covering it, but whenever there is a natural disaster, all the media is alert. For a few days, there is intense coverage. But we are not connecting the dots. One climate event and another climate event, these two are not isolated things. There is a connection. So we have to take all these things in perspective. We have to understand it in its background of climate change, global warming, environmental degradation. So that kind of understanding is not, maybe it is emerging, but it's high time that we try to put things in perspective. For example, there is this issue of global warming. So we talk about global warming, but when there is a mining somewhere or there is a filling of wetlands, then we just focus on that local issue. But local and global, there is a connection between these two. That media has to bring forth. Only then people can understand, because what touches their lives is connected to something bigger. So people have to understand that connection, and media has to play a crucial role in this.
So you mean by this we should have a bottom-up approach instead of top-down approach?
Yes.
Moving forward, ma'am, what is the scope for youth in Arunachal to take up journalism? Can it be an attractive profession?
Yes, I think this is Northeast is an unexplored area for journalism, especially TV journalism, because our television, national media's approach is to be urban-centered. Rural reporting is people like Sainath have done that, but still a huge vacuum is there. So that is where the students from Arunachal can work. And also, I think the young generation, their minds are not polluted. They have a fresh eye. Because we, the seniors, we are biased by many experiences, many influences, and all that. So it is the young people who can look with a fresh eye on all these matters. And also, you have the power of social media with you. Our generation is not, even now we are not very familiar with social media. We are adapting to it, that's it. But you have born into it. So you will be able to integrate social media and mainstream media, or whatever you call it, both these for social change. Now you are using social media, but how far you are able to use that for the common good, it's a question. So that is where you have to combine these two, and it will be a very powerful tool for journalism. So a new kind of journalism, I think young people can evolve.
Yes, indeed. I think I have read P. Sainath book, Everybody Loves Good Road.
Yes.
I hope from Arunachal there will be a P. Sainath like him. He is one of the most desirable journalists of India, and I admire him so much. Thank you for mentioning
He
this.
has been a role model for all of us.
Indeed, he is truly a role model.
Even especially for developmental journalists like us.
Really, ma'am. He inspires us in many ways. People like us from rural pockets, the way he writes up the things, and the way he portrays rural life in the wider area. So it's...
See, he was the rural affairs editor in Hindu, but why our other media do not have a rural affairs editor? That is the question. Because sitting in air-conditioned rooms and commenting on what is happening. I am not ruling out its importance, but it is one way of looking at it. But equally important, or even more important, is going to the ground, meeting people, talking to them, understanding their issues. Only from there you can have a real picture of India.
So it means putting ourselves in the shoes of rural people.
Yeah.
Yes. So moving forward, what are the essential skills to become a successful TV journalist?
There may be many answers to that. But from my experience, I think the skills come from two areas. One is reading. Because reading tells you about our past. Because you cannot go everywhere and study everything in first person. So reading is one thing. And the second thing is talking to people, engaging with the society. So these two things are what I have seen in all good journalists. I have a journalist, a friend of mine, he's very senior. He talks to everyone. We say that he talks to even the crow that he sees. So like that, you have to be completely immersed in people, and also you have to read to put the things in perspective. You may get first-hand experience by talking to people, by seeing things happening, but when you want to put that in a historical perspective, you have to read. Read whatever you can get hold of. But at one point you will know to become selective in reading. But to begin with, you have to read everything because for journalism, anything under the sun is your topic. So you are not to omit anything. So that is how I have become a journalist, through meeting people and not through textbooks. Through meeting people and through reading other books.
Surely we shall follow these two important tips. So what are the challenges a young lady can face if she opts for TV journalism? Could you share any of your experiences?
Yeah, I think I come from the southern end of India, and the problems I faced as a young woman will be different from what now a young woman there faces. And also your experience will be entirely different. So Kerala, it is a very strongly patriarchal society. When in college, when I was a little late to come back home, people used, on the way home, everyone used to ask me very authoritatively, why are you so late? So initially I used to explain to them very apologetically that I had this thing, that thing. But then I decided that I gained the confidence and skill to answer politely, yet remind them that I have my own priorities and they cannot intrude into my life and my privacy. So again, choosing journalism as a woman, it was very difficult to succeed in a man's world, because in television in Kerala, maybe you can say I was the fourth or fifth woman in television. because the first batch had in Asianet News was the first private TV, not in Doordarshan. Doordarshan there were women, but they were mostly newsreaders. In Asianet News was the first private TV channel in whole India. So there the first batch had 3 women and our batch had 3 women. We were the second batch. So I could be the 4th, 5th or 6th woman in Malayalam television. So at that time, what happens is that male journalists would be hanging out after the office hours, after their work, they will be hanging out with politicians, with other reporters, and they will be going home very late. So that is where the news happens. That is in these discussions, they get tips, they get some secrets, they understand. So for a woman journalist, it was very difficult. But again, I think that time, women journalists like us began to work in areas where men were not very keen about, like environment, gender. These areas we concentrated. And after the internet became very prevalent, it became very easy. The entire style of journalism changed. If you have resources at your fingertip. So I think it helped women journalists a lot. And after that, in the field also, people will doubt you. Like, she's a woman, how can she handle such a complex topic? So you have to prove to them. Like that in the office also. Male journalist is taken for granted. He can do everything. So all these hurdles were there, but I think this struggle is also very rewarding because you have the joy of overcoming a hurdle, proving something. So that gives you confidence. That helps you grow. So I think this struggle, in one way or another, all have to undergo this, to walk this path. And also for you, I think here there is more gender equality. I felt so. I'm not sure. And also I think, but if you go out of your state, you will face the same problems. Because in many states, except Northeast, I think very male-dominated kind of society is there. So you have to expect all these things, but be prepared for that and don't get disheartened by it and pursue your journalism.
It's true, ma'am. We were given freedom to, I think, our extent, I believe. I have been to south part of India. I did my graduation from there.
Okay.
So from that, I think we can differentiate
so you know the difference.
How we talk with our parents and how they talk it. So that way, I think we have more freedom to express our stuffs. But I hope we will use this in journalism too.
And also you should preserve this culture because everything is changing fast. Like the economically influential part of the country will try to dominate the weaker sections. So you will have to fight for that too, I think.
Yes, we shall fight for our own rights. So moving forward, have you ever encountered any personality whom you enjoyed interviewing?
Indeed, there are many. For example, I interviewed in Orissa, Felix Paddle. He was the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin. He's an anthropologist. He was working with he is working with the Dongria Konth tribe of Orissa. He lives in a small village there. He lives a very humble life. So to meet the great-great-grandson of Charles Darwin, and he's a wonderful person also. It was very fascinating. Then there was, I interviewed once in Kodaikanal, in Tamil Nadu, I interviewed Rakesh Sharma, who was the first Indian to go to space. So that was also, I got to ask him questions like, when you stood there, what did you feel? Looking at Earth, did you feel closer to God or did you feel that science has conquered the universe? So those kind of fascinating experiences I had with all these brilliant people. But equally important is that the ordinary people I met, who amazed me with their courage, their perseverance, their understanding of nature. So that was also one part that we cannot count down.
Yes, layman shall never be less than anyone else.
Everybody has a lesson to teach.
Yes, sure, yes, ma'am. Coming back to the field of environment, we see large-scale monocrops and cash crops cultivation spreading across Northeast India. Do you think people of Arunachal need to focus on organic farming?
I'm not the right person to answer that question because I'm not an agriculturist. So I have covered organic farms and inorganic farms also. I have worked in that area, but I am not the authority to comment on that. But still, I think regarding monocrops and cash crops, Kerala also had a phase of our cultivation shifting to monocrops and cash crops. There were benefits and uh, consequences too, bad consequences too. Because we transformed from millets, vegetables to rubber, coffee, tea, cardamom. So these crops were intensively cultivated, unlike the other millets and all. So we had to use chemical fertilizers, pesticides. Then the farmer began to fall into a debt trap because they have to give all these inputs. They have to buy from outside all these inputs. So it's a vicious circle. But it served a purpose. At a time when India was had food shortages, we were not very self-sufficient. This chemical farming helped us. But then came a later stage when the bad effects of chemical farming began to affect us. The soil was damaged, there were cancer and the ill effects of pesticides. So then the organic movement started. So I think farmer also needs to live a good life. So unless organic farming provides them good income, it is very difficult for a farmer to, it is not the onus is not on him, should not be on him. It should be the society, the government, NGOs, researchers, they should handhold the farmers to become organic. So it is a long path. You cannot impose that on a farmer. But they should be made aware, they should be helped to shift to at least reduce the use of pesticides. It should be a step-by-step approach, I think.
With that, I think balanced approach is more important.
Yeah. Maybe integrated, scientists say integrated pest management, like using the right amount of fertilizer, not using it excessively. Because farmers ask for the advice of the traders. Instead of that, they should get advice from the researchers, the scientists. So that kind of extension has to be there. And also research in organic farming has a long way to go. We are not doing much research in organic farming. So that is also an area where we need more focus.
So during last 1 week, you have traveled from Tezu to Kaho, Walong, Kibito, and now you will be going to Dibang Valley. What is your impression about environment degradation? I'm sure you must have heard a lot about Arunachal being very rich in vegetation and a great center of attraction for tourism.
Yeah, Arunachal is a very beautiful state. It is the first time I have come here, but it is amazing to travel around, to see the river river travels with you. So, but when I came to Tezu, it was blistering heat. This is the same climate as our summer in Kerala. Kerala also, it's very hot in summer and humid too, so we get adjusted very easily. But I think Arunachal Pradesh is also facing the ill effects of environmental degradation combined with global warming. So these two things, maybe the forests are in decline because of the developmental activities to some extent. Development is also needed. People need roads and all facilities. Everybody has a right to that. But where to find a balance? That is the issue. In Walong also I heard that cardamom farming has completely declined because of global warming. The temperature has increased. Productivity has gone down. So I think Arunachal just presented with a unique opportunity also. Because very few places in India remain so pristine. So you can show a model to the world. Because in US, I read a month before that they are spending trillions of dollars to make farmers, small farmers and big corporate farmers, to do cover crops in between their major crops, so that the soil is covered with greenery and carbon does not become oxidized and escape to the environment, which enhances global warming. So you can present the world with alternatives involving the community. So this you have the opportunity to have a fresh start. In Kerala and all, we have gone all the way in the wrong path. So maybe there is a way in between, which states like Arunachal can explore and become a role model to the world. So maybe like Scandinavian countries, Denmark and all.
So, we will end this conversation today. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. We will see you next episode.
Thank you, Vitam, for having me.